Good morning and namaste to everyone. Let's start our Wednesday class with some prayers. Om Guru Brahma, Guru Vishnu, Guru Devo Maheshwara, Guru Sakshat Parbrahma, Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Om Bhuvasvaha, Tatsavitravare Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi, Dhiyo Yo Naha Prachodayat. Asto ma sadgamya, tamso ma jyotirgamya, mrityorma amritam gamya. Om sehna bhavatu, sehna bhanatu, seviryam karvavehi, tejasvi navadhitamastu, ma vidvishavahi. Om shanti shanti shanti. We tend to think of yoga or spirituality as something which will immediately and drastically transform or change us. That means we just read a few chapters or recite few mantras or go to few classes or visit some ashram or temple will be transformed. We forget about the weaknesses in our personality. Because unless we take the weaknesses out, the negativities out, there won't be any transformation. A good example of this behavior is that 75% of the time, we are more aware and concerned with what others are doing. Okay? And remaining 25% of the time, we are aware of our I identity. I want this. I want that. I think this. I do that. I. That's why out of thousands of seekers, few find the path. Out of this, very few walk the path. And out of those who walk the path, fewer who attain the goal. Because we don't remove the weaknesses on us, which are in our personality. Not in the Atma, in the personality layers. Anybody who's seeking, anybody who's making an effort, anybody who applies their mental faculties to the acquisition of knowledge in a particular field can be called a student. In Sanskrit word we use for the student is Vidyarthi. Vidyarthi, which means a person whose objective is to obtain knowledge. Vidyarthi. But a student of yoga is not just an ordinary Vidyarthi. Just a very ordinary seeker of knowledge. They have to be first and foremost a seeker of liberation, moksha. Is that the goal? Moksha. And any eligible person is called adhikari. Let us look at the traditional list of 4 attributes which make a person into an adhikari, eligible. See, just like there's an eligibility to go to any school. Higher the degree, the tougher the eligibility. So eligible for employing yoga as a means of self-knowledge. And the list of this eligibility is called sadhana chatushtaya.
Yeah.
Sadhana chatushtaya. Chatur means 4. I'm sure you're all familiar with these terms, but I wanted to throw a little bit more light on it today. The first one is Vivek, discrimination between the real and unreal. Second one is called Vairagya, detachment, renunciation of the unreal. Because if we are moving towards the ultimate real, if we don't let go of the unreal, we cannot move forward. And the third one is called Sham Adi Guna. That means a collection of certain qualities beginning with a settled mind. So if mind is not settled, we are not even beginning this journey. Settled mind, Sham. It's also called self-control, or it's called Shat Sampatti, because there are 6 parts to it. And the fourth qualification is called Mumukshutvam, seeking for fundamental liberation, or you can say longing for liberation, Mumukshutvam. Let's look at the first one, Vivek, or discrimination. It's amplified in the textbooks to be Nitya Anitya Vastu Vivekaha. Nitya Anitya. Proper understanding of the eternal and the time bound. Nitya Anitya Vastu Viveka. However, this is just a way of expression and it cannot literally mean what it apparently says. Because if we had in the beginning full and proper understanding of the eternal, when we are just starting out this yogic study, then we would not need to do anything. That means we really don't have that knowledge yet. Because otherwise we'll be jnani, we'll be knowledgeable. So at the initial stage, Vivek really means that by using our own experience and thinking, we should have come to conclusion that all that we know and all that we have worked for or achieved is anitya so far. It's time bound. But to understand that, because we don't know yet what eternal is. We don't know what nitya is yet. But whatever we have gathered is anitya. And let's look at Vairagya, detachment. It's explained in the scriptures as iham utram phal bhoga. Vairagya. Lack of desire to enjoy the fruits of actions. Either here or in the here and after. Okay, that means after we leave the body. Because some of the actions we do so that our future will be better. So even that, let it go. That's Vairagya. So even a charitable or a religious act with the desire to enjoy, definitely it will result into good results, like a punya. Leading to a comfortable life now or later, or even a place in heaven. Would not be in keeping with this explanation of Vairagya. So if you are following the path of a yoga or Vedas, this kind of a Vairagya. Not just only the lower Vairagya, but the higher Vairagya also. That's why Rishi Patanjali talked about apar Vairagya and par Vairagya. So Vairagya is complete when we have a total detachment. We must be careful here not to look at detachment as being synonymous with physical renunciation or outward asceticism. Detachment follows discrimination. And we stop imposing a false extra value to an object or to a situation which does not actually belong to it. Let's take the instance of money. Detachment does not mean that we should work on convincing ourselves that money has no value. That's not detachment. Money, of course, has value in many areas of life and should be used as appropriate. However, objectivity is lost, superimposition of a false, subjective values take place, and we look upon money as the real means of dealing with our sense of insecurity. So that's where the problem is. Money, by its very nature, cannot provide a permanent solution to our insecurities. If our own nature is insecure, so that means we got to work on that, our nature. Otherwise, no matter how much you have, you'll be insecure. So detachment from falsely superimposed value, properly understood after employing discrimination, is what is meant by Vairagya. Okay, they go hand in hand, but definitely got to understand what is real, what is not real, and what is not real, detach from it. Because aim is the real. And the next item on the list is a collection of those 6 qualities. The first one is called Sham. It's a description of a settled or a resolved state of mind. That is Sham, which is coming out of a certain acceptance of our own body and mind, as well as by properly managing our likes and dislikes. It's the management of it. A very important factor here is the understanding of God as being the natural order which makes the world as it is, and which makes all people what they are. Then it gives you a calmness in the mind. With the Sham, our mind is available to us because this mind is so powerful. With the Sham, it is available to us. It's such a great Devata and under our control. And in our pursuit of yoga, instead of being controlled by situations, people, and likes and dislikes, this is what happens. So we can use that controlled mind properly on this path. That is Sham. The next one is Dham, means restraint or control. And this actually precedes Sham in practice. While Sham is a product of maturity, Dham is a will-based regulation of our senses and also reactions. Sometimes we need to react to stay away from the situations and to control impulses which need to be avoided till Sham develops. So mind doesn't understand, but at least the senses should understand. So that's why I said it precedes Sham. In a situation capable of provoking anger, the absence of anger would be Sham. There's no anger in the mind. But the restraint of our speech or even hand once the anger has arisen. So somebody said something to us and we get angry. At that time to stay quiet and to keep your senses in your control and your hands in your control until Sham arises. Mind becomes calm. That's why it's always suggested that move away from the situation. Drink a glass of cold water, go for a walk, cultivate that dhamma. And if you keep on doing this, there will be sham also. One can see that once maturity is achieved, I'm talking about the spiritual maturity, not a physical maturity. The importance of them is not so great then. So occasion to use of them will not even arise if sham is already present. Mind is calm. Hands don't need to react. Mouth doesn't need to react. Mind is already calm. And where did it come from? From that maturity. The third one on this list is called Uprati. Uprati has a connotations of love or enjoyment. Rati. Rati means enjoyment. We as students may be intellectually clear about the value of our pursuit, but yet may be emotionally distant. So by spiritual practice and by association with other spiritual seekers, we develop a love for spirituality. So that other pursuits automatically lose their hold. Opposite of Uprati is Avirati. Avirati is enjoyment in the worldly pleasures, sensual pleasures. Uprati is love for that higher. Up means higher. So the lower enjoyment automatically lose their hold when you have this Uprati in you. Because mind doesn't want to lean on the external objects for its joy. An object really means it could be a place, it could be people, it could be situation, anything. Mind has found the eternal fountain of joy, which is within us. Consequently, the usually strong sense of me and mine begin to dissipate. Like, I want this, or this is mine. I go there, then I'll be happy. All that dissipate. No need for it. That is called Uprati. Next one is called Deeksha, capacity to endure. It is the capacity to put up with unpleasant situations and people, because we are social beings. We meet with people. We cannot expect everybody to be liking us. Okay, so Titiksha. So capacity to put up with unpleasant situations and people patiently. That's why they say patience is a virtue, and with equanimity. Further, such putting up has to be without lament, complaint, or seeking revenge, and also without great effort to change things. That's the Diksha. And this can come only from objectivity based upon the understanding that all lives must face pairs of opposites, like sorrow and happiness, success and failure, pleasant situation or unpleasant situation. So this kind of a conviction has to be there, that the only goal worth pursuing is the goal of knowledge of the self. Any obstacle comes in between, I will bear it. I will not complain about it because my goal is high. Just like for a higher degree, the student has to work hard, day and night. And that is only for the secular studies. This is something a lot higher. There's nothing higher than this. So we got to have the forbearance to go through the tough times also. Next one is called Shraddha. Shraddha is often translated as faith, but it's not really just faith in the sense of blind belief. Because if this were so, then the yoga would be a dogma to be preached, not knowledge to be understood. Shraddha here only implies a trust in the words of the teacher and of the scriptures. Pending discovery of the truth by the student. So right now we don't have the experience, but having a faith in the words of the scriptures and the Guru. That one day I will experience it too, because my Guru says so, scripture says so. So what is required is the ability to give the teachings and the teacher the benefit of any doubt. And the suspension of prejudice, cynicism, skepticism, until and unless what is being taught, we experience its validity. Because the teacher gives you the means of knowledge also. Teacher says you have to do the sadhana also. So if we have not done that, how can we experience it? So having faith in Guru's words, scripture's words. So in a sense, Shraddha is the initial acceptance of the scriptures as a completely independent means of knowledge, which can be proven only after its own and proper use. Okay. So this is difficult, but without Shraddha, there's no real way of going forward. That's why Lord Krishna said, Shraddhavan labhte jnanam. Shraddha. And the next one is Samadhan. The last of these six, collection of six. Sham Adi. Adi means etc. So Samadhan. Samadhan is the ability to concentrate upon a given subject for an appropriate length of time. To understand and assimilate the teachings of yoga requires a mind which can hold experiences and complex ideas. So you want that kind of a mind. Dwell upon them and be absorbed in the study and understanding of a particular topic. That's why Shravan, Manan, Nididhyasan is recommended. This ability requires a certain amount of intellectual development and practice, as well as emotional tranquility. And in that list of sadhana, chatushtya, the fourth one, because so far we have looked at vivek, vairagya, sham adi. Those are the three, right? Fourth one is mumukshutvam. So we now come to the fourth and the last item on our main list. So this is like a main list. Those six were part of the third item. So I don't want you to get too confused. So mumukshutvam is a burning desire for liberation, not a lukewarm desire, burning desire. For an eligible student of yoga, adhikari, moksha should not be one of many desires, but the predominant desire. That's why my own Guruji used to say, whatever you are doing, keep this in your mind. Is this what I'm doing and thinking, taking me towards my ultimate goal? Or moving me from there. Whatever you are doing. So this predominant desire, predominant goal has to be in the mind all the time for an adhikari. Desire for liberation may start as a simple, manageable, and deferable desire, but in time has to become all-consuming, like a burning thirst. That I cannot live without it. Just like we have a burning thirst to acquire some object or burning thirst to meet somebody, burning thirst for moksha. How come I am not moving closer to it? This does not mean that student of yoga should have no other desire at all. It doesn't mean that. But it does mean that those other desires should in time become subservient to the paramount desire for ultimate and permanent freedom. Okay? Keep that in. Incidentally, while mumukshutvam happens to be the last item in the list of qualifications, it is probably the most critical. Someone who has never been consumed by a longing for the ultimate answer is not likely to penetrate to the heart of yoga. So that has to be there. That has to be first there. Then you will go to the Vivek and Vairagya and Samadhi. Without all the qualities which have been just reviewed over here, there would be no adhikari. No eligibility, and that without some minimum eligibility, the teachings of yoga will not work at all. So not being an adhikari makes the pursuit of yoga not merely difficult, but almost meaningless. On the other hand, we also see that being an adhikari does not mean some impossible attempt at total objectivity and control or at full understanding and ethical purity. Okay, so just remember that. Start maybe 10% of Vivek, 10% of Vairagya. Start somewhere, but you got to start. 100% Vivek and Vairagya and Sham and Dam Adi. It will take time, but at least start from somewhere. See, just like I always tell you, meditate every day. I never say meditate for an hour every day. Take 10 minutes every day at least. Start from there. Same thing goes for this also. Start thinking about it. Start working on it. These eligibilities. Because a person with full measure of adhikaritvam is not a mumukshu or a jigyasu, but that person is a person who has total wisdom. So 100% viveki, 100% vairagi, 100% mumukshutvam, they don't need to. They have already done this. So a person who is a full viveki, that means who totally understand what is eternal, does not need to study Vedas at all. Doesn't even have to sit in meditation because that person is a walking and talking meditator. So all this is for us students who are starting on this path. See, just like Uprati also does not mean that a student should completely lose a sense of me and mine in the beginning or as a precondition. All that is required at the initial stage is to develop a practical structure of personal possessions and ego boundaries, which is realistic and appropriate for spiritual growth. Okay? So remember that it's not that difficult. But we have to start with the proper understanding. The qualities which make a person an eligible student, adhikari of yoga, keep on growing throughout their learning. So Vivek will grow, Vairagya will grow, Sham Adi will grow also. And Mumukshutvam will grow too. Several of yoga's teachings, especially those of the preparatory nature, like appreciation of the need to live by the universal values. And what are those universal values? Yam and the niyams. Ahimsa, Satya, Stya, Brahmacharya, those are the values I'm talking about. They are universal. Okay. Proper understanding of God. Go to those Yoga Sutras. The Rishi Patanjali explains what God is. We have to have a proper understanding of God. And the cultivation of an appropriate attitude to the results of an individual's actions. We are in a karma yoni. We are responsible for every action, whether we perform it with the body or mind or words. They are really designed to increase adhikaritvam. Just because a person does not meet with the entire list of desired qualities in full, there's no reason to feel disheartened or to hesitate in taking up the practice of yoga. Okay? So knowledge is important, but then starting out wherever you are and moving towards that highest. Remember, yoga is a means of knowledge for an eligible seeker, and when it does not work, it is because there's a need to increase and improve eligibility. Okay, we got to just work on these qualities which we need to cultivate to become adhikari. Okay, do not become disheartened by learning all these tough words over here. But how does a student know whether they have enough eligibility to start the pursuit of yoga? The answer is very simple and practical. If a person has taken even some interest in yoga, then there is already an element of eligibility. So that means if the thought has occurred in somebody's mind that I got to walk on this path, that means there is some level of eligibility. If they continue to pursue yoga and some of its teachings begin to take root and actually start working for them in daily life, even in a small measure, then this is a further sign of present and growing eligibility. That means you are thinking about it. When you are going and just getting attracted.
You want me to come down?
So when you are going somewhere, there are list of books. You just pick up, your eyes go towards that. Where you're going to get this kind of a knowledge. Or when you meet people and talk about this, that means eligibility is growing. Instead of sitting back and relaxing, somebody needs you, you go out and help that person without seeking the reward. That means eligibility is growing. When there is a calamity and you can still be calm about it, eligibility has grown. A little headache, a little pain, and you can still stay calm. That means growth is happening. You are not a complainer. Complainer is not an eligible student. And that complaint could be about anything. Sometimes we even complain about the weather. Any kind of a complaint, that means you are not accepting, there is no Deeksha. So just check yourself, check your mind. Where is it going? Is it going towards God or is it going towards Maya? Again, my Guruji used to say that mind is like a fly. If it is just a house fly, it will go towards something bad. But if you have made it into a butterfly, it will go to the flower. So we got to make sure that we make our mind to a butterfly, which goes towards the flower. Looking at the positive in any situation, then eligibility is growing. One of the beauties of this spiritual practice is that its study continues to increase our eligibility. And the beneficial impact of the resulting change in attitudes is felt in all aspects of our life. All aspects means our relationships become better, our health becomes better, our happiness has increased. Wherever we go, we are spreading the peace, because that's what we have then. So resulting the change in attitudes is felt in all aspects of life. Remember that. Even if the seeker does not develop total eligibility or complete the entire journey yet. That means while you're walking on this path, you're enjoying this path. And you're spreading the fragrance of this path wherever you go. But not reached there yet, but this eligibility gives that. Let's look at what has been said about a person who has initial eligibility to study yoga or spirituality, but does not make the effort to increase their eligibility and strive for self-knowledge. I think some of you have studied this with me in Vivek Chudamani. This verse is from there, verse number 5 actually. In the beginning of Vivek Chudamani, Adi Shankaracharya ji says, Itaha kanu asti mood-atma yatu swarte paramadyate. Durlabham manushyam deham prapya tatrapi purusham. So in this verse, he makes us think. He says, is there a greater fool than the person who, having obtained the rare opportunity of a human birth, and that too with the required intellectual and emotional qualities, does not make a full effort to understand his own self? So that means all the ingredients are there: human birth, intellect, Chetanta, but doesn't want to make an effort. He says, isn't that a fool? So this is to encourage us that don't stay like a fool. You have all the eligibility. Work on it to increase the eligibility and walk on this path with a full resolution, full determination that this is my goal, mumukshutva. And I'll work on all of these eligibilities more and more. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vishishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Thank you very much.